Good morning. It's February 19th, and I recognize that the world is not a peaceful place. There are conflicts that are going on all around this planet. And I decided to take a look and see what's really happening. And it's much more disturbing and much more distributed than I could imagine. And let me list you a couple of things that are happening here, and some of which you'll know right off the top of your head. You could count 4 or 5 of these. But there are many others that are in places that are hardly ever mentioned. So we have an internal conflict in Myanmar. And then we have the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which is a war. It's more than a conflict. And then we have the Russo-Ukrainian war. And then there's an Ethiopian civil conflict. And there's a Mexican drug war. And the Syrian civil war. And the Nigerian bandit conflict. And the Yemeni civil war. And then there's a gang war in Haiti. And I could go on and on and on, because there are many more that I couldn't find on a list anywhere, but I know they're going on. I know they're going on all over the Middle East. In the Middle East, we have the Houthi and Hezbollah and Hamas throwing themselves around. And then there's ISIS, who is relatively quiet right now, but I know they're doing something somewhere. Conflicts are going on all around the world, and I'll talk about that in a second, but we in the United States have to consider ourselves lucky that we're not involved in a conflict personally. Nothing is really on our territory, within the United States. There may be some political squabbles or something, but there's nothing major going on within the United, where people's lives are at danger. But there are places around the world where everyday living is constantly being disturbed is not a strong enough word. Constantly being challenged. We look at the Israeli conflict. We can see what's happening in many other places. People are being displaced by the millions. There's a disruption in access to the basic services like food and water. And these conflicts force people into extreme poverty. And it's always the poorest people that take the worst of the situation. And the UN is hopeless. It cannot do a damn thing to stop this. So I don't know why nations even belong to the UN. But that's a whole other story. They're good at tracking all of these violent acts, but not really good at doing anything to stop them. And so let me tell you what the number is. There are at least 32 live conflicts going on right now. And I only mentioned about 10 of them before. Now, according to the Council on Foreign Relations Global Conflict Tracker, there are 32 armed conflicts going on worldwide. And the tracker puts them into categories. And there are 3 groups: worsening, unchanging, and improving. To most of us, we know a couple of these leading war situations. There's Israeli-Palestine. There's the war in the Ukraine. There's a war in Afghanistan. There's a civil war in Myanmar. And there's several other places that we really haven't heard of. There's instability in Haiti and the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. That's an ethnic conflict, and it's a violent competition involving ethnic militias. So there's a lot of things going on that are classified as worsening. So unfortunately, conflict and of airline delays and near misses between planes. And on top of that, the FAA is facing intense criticism for giving aircraft makers too much freedom to regulate themselves during the certification process. Now that's a form of insanity in my mind. Yes, these people are responsible for building a safe and secure aircraft. But do I want the same person that built the plane to be responsible for certification of the plane? That's not the way it should be done. That action should be taken over by a third party. You build something, you do the best possible job, you inspect it and everything, you do that. But then, when people's lives are at stake, there must be a third party check. Somebody who checks your work. Somebody who is not concerned with profit margins or the amount of time it takes to do these jobs, etc. Now, I'm not pointing a finger and saying that Boeing or whoever is building this plane is not capable of inspecting the whole thing. But I know that people get sloppy. And I know what can happen if a plane goes bad. And the door flying off the thing is the least of the tragedies that could happen if the planes are not properly inspected and re-inspected. And an entire fleet is taken out of service because of this particular action. And certainly Boeing and all other plane manufacturers fall in this same group. They should not be responsible for the final inspection of their product. That belongs in the hands of a third party who has no vested interest in the running of the company and the building of the planes and everything. Because we all know from experience that when things get tight, people get cut, jobs are missing. And then what happens if you don't have enough qualified people doing the job? Then there's going to be slipshod work, etc. So I don't know how stupid the FAA is and how stupid the plane manufacturers are to not properly have in place an airtight inspection system. And based upon this story, I believe that Boeing is not the only company that has fallen into this trap. And I call it a trap if you don't want to inspect your product properly. Now, maybe I'm overreacting and maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. And you may be right about that. But it doesn't seem right to me that the person who manufactures the product and inspects his job has the final say. There has to be a third party involved in this process. We can't have planes flying around and doors flying off the planes. And what happens if their wheels fall off? There's a landing gear issue. There's something issue. This is no minor incident. This is something that should make the airline industry wake up and recognize their responsibilities to the flying public and to the public that's on the ground, because those people are in danger when the planes fail. So I leave you with that this morning. It's your stressful story about the safety of flying, and I love to fly. Have a great day. Bye.